안녕하세요 여러분. 네, 제 채널엔 어칭크술 환영합니다. 한국어로 할게요. 이 비디오는 아닙니다. 땡. 제 한국어에 사진 있지만 정말요 진짜로 잘 못해요. 그래서 영어로 바꿀 거예요. 네. 자. Right, so that has been my attempt to do a little bit of Korean in my introduction because it's the easiest part that I can do. As you can see, well, in the title of the video, I'm gonna be giving you, I wouldn't say tips, but advice from my personal perspective of how you can make easy for you to learning the language. And I'm gonna be also talking a little bit about like my journey learning Korean. I do have confidence in like a very day-to-day way of speaking the language, so I can, you know, go to a pharmacy and order like medicines if I have to. I can go to a supermarket, I can go to a restaurant and other things, and like most of the time like a very chit-chat, like simple conversations, even in stores for asking for things, directions and things like that. I do feel confident, but doing a whole video about it, like, and talking about things and things like that, I don't think like I even need to do that. And that's just a personal thing. There is a lot of things that I'm lacking, I believe. So, you know, the whole video will be about me talking about my experience, how did I got into learning Korean, and like my journey so far. And then I will just give you some advice on, from my perspective, how these things can work out for you. One thing before we start, one thing that I want to make abundantly clear is that any of these advice or tips that I'm gonna give to you are from my personal experience, for my personal journey, and like the way that the things that works for me. So it is okay if there are things that you might not agree with. Like, the idea will be for you to take the things that work for you and maybe implement other things. By any means, this is not the only video out there that will give you advice or tips to learning the language. So please take the things that will be useful for you. But I will encourage you, like, if you have any other suggestions and then you say, this thing does not fully work for me, but I believe that this can be helpful, please leave it on the comments, because maybe other people can find it useful as well, and maybe I can, you know, find other ways to study and learn the language as well. Right, so I think I have talked about it. I think I have already a video about talking about my journey learning Korean. And I started in 2020, which is during the COVID whole thing going on, because I traveled to Korea in 2019. Previous to that, I got familiarized with like K-pop and K-dramas from my friend, who I started this channel, to be honest. And we were talking about going together. At the end, she couldn't go, so I went by myself. I really fell in love with like the whole culture. Everything was very new to me, and I think that helped or like contributed to me to like falling in love fully with like all the things that I could get my grasp, like my hands on, like the food and like the cultural aspect, everything, because I was living everything on that moment. The following step that makes the most sense to me was to try to learn the language, because I thought that, okay, if I can understand the language, that will allow me to maybe engage a little bit more with the content that I consume. If I'm coming back, then I will feel like a little bit more confident to like maybe go in places that I wasn't confident to go before. And then that's when I started to doing my journey of like trying to, you know, learn the language. When I did start to look into learning the language, because of the type of learning that I am, I need physical things. Like I feel that when I have a book in my hands, or like when I write things down properly, or like type things down properly, I think that that's an easy way for me to learn things. So I did get like a bunch of books, and I got a couple of textbooks that I thought would help me. I started and got, I think you might be familiar with this. So this is Talk to Me in Korean. They're books. I have all the series, but I only showing this three. And they go into details about like the grammar and like the grammar and like different advices and things like that. So it has a very methodical way of learning. The other book that I got around that same time was this one. And I think before I started to using those ones, these were the ones that, the one that I used the most. This is for actually like just learning the alphabet and how to pronunciate it. It gives you tips. It makes you like calligraphy to repeat so you get familiar with like how to write and read the alphabet. I think this is like, to be honest, this is very useful. Like, it's very user friendly. I think that's very, very nice. If I talk about my whole journey, I did then seek for like courses. I signed up for like an online course. I joined to the session handout in Budapest, and I did my first levels online with the Korean Institute in Budapest. Then I did a couple of ones in London. And for them, they use a different book and they use this one. So I have book number 1 and 5 here when I started, and the level that I am right now. These ones provide you a lot of exercises. This was provide you like a lot of guidance. It has both the Korean and obviously the English translation, at least for the first 2 books, I think. So I would suggest to maybe, if you are starting from the very, very beginning, to try to get other materials available to you. And then when you are a little bit more familiar with it, wouldn't say like you already know everything, but like when you are already more familiar with it, then you can jump with these ones, and these ones are very, very fun. So now jumping to the tips and like advice for like this particular video. Number 1, there are a couple of like applications that work if you want to talk with foreigners about the language, or like trying to find like Korean people to talk about it. I think there are a couple of like applications, like iTalk I think is one, I think that's the name. And then you have this specific application. I'm not gonna say the name of the application, but it rhymes with lingo. So my first advice, and this is something personal, please don't take it wrong. If you really want to learn the language, I will advise against using purely as a tool to be able to get fluent or to try to properly learn the language. The thing, they do teach a lot of words, so that can be useful. You learn a lot of different words. It's just that the context of how to use them and the grammar behind it is nowhere to be seen. So that can be complicated. That can confuse you if you are not familiar with it. So my advice would be that only if you are looking to maybe learn new words, because for the rapid pace, they will just provide you with a lot of words and say, okay, I know this word, and because I already have learned some grammar, I can use this word on this context, and that can be useful. But to solely use to learn the language, I wouldn't advise. There are other reasons for it, but we are not getting into that. My second advice when learning the language, and this is something that's why I believe I am far from being fluent, trying to learn a lot of new words, and that ties up with the first one. Like there are applications that will help you with that. Once you know about the grammar and things like that, you say, oh, I know how this, I know this word, I know this one, I can use it into a sentence. So is gonna be very, very helpful. Try to, from the very beginning, make it into your day-to-day, or like make it into your routine to learn 3 to 5 words a week, maybe more if you can, maybe less if you feel like it's a little bit more cumbersome, and trying to learn the word and trying to put it into conversations or like grammar or context that you have been learning during that week. And at the end of the day, obviously grammar is extremely important, but there comes to a point, and I will get into that, when you do know the grammar, but you lack the words to use that grammar for, and then it becomes like extremely hard. Believe me, it does. My third advice, and this might be a hot take, I don't know, and I might be haunted because of this. And truly, this is just for my personal experience. My third advice will be avoid as much as you can the romanization of the language. And hold on. Please stop. Romanization of the language normally is used to just get familiar, to recognize the sounds and get a starting point of how things sounded like. So when I was learning the alphabet, or when I was learning how to like properly pronunciate things, my teacher and like the suggestion would be, so this word, these are the vowels, and this sounds like, and then there will be an example, and obviously there will be the romanization of it, so you could visualize and say, oh, okay, I have like a reference to it. But that was the extent of it, and I think that's a good way to use it. I personally will not advise to keep using romanization of the language once you have moved past learning the alphabet. When you are familiar how the things sound, then I would move past. Then you can say, okay, so this sounds like this, I'm gonna put it on Google Translate to see how it sounds. But using it and then seeing the Korean word and then seeing how it's romanized and trying to pronounce it in that way rather than just learning how it sounds, it can hamper your ability to learn the language. I don't want to say that if you use it right now is bad. That's just my advice. Probably it can be useful if you fully know and don't know the standard of like the proper like romanization of every single word. And if it's helpful for you, that's really, really great. I'm just thinking that for me, it was a little bit, I just tried to not use it, and that was my advice for my teacher as well. This one is a little bit more general, and I think I'm not gonna be the only one to say this to you, but my full advice will be like speak and write Korean as much as you can. Don't get discouraged. It gets hard, the levels, depending on how you are studying, and I'm gonna speak about like my experience with the actual learning of the language at the end. But it gets a little bit hard once you progress through the levels. But what I always find it very useful was trying to, marry actually the first two advices and trying to include the words that I have learned and like the way that I was learning the grammar and things like that into conversations like daily with friends, or like we using the application that I've mentioned, to try to work it out and trying to practice those things. So try to like, maybe if you are doing it with your friend, if you're learning with your friend together, that's something that I did. We say like, okay, let's choose one day, like maybe 2 hours or something, that we can maybe have a call or maybe a conversation over like social media, WhatsApp or whatever, and then try to speak the language, or like try to write the language and try to practice what you have learned that week or like that month or whatnot. That's very helpful. Try to do that as much as you can. If you have Korean friends, then trying to like ask them for help, like, do you mind like, if we can talk in Korean like a little bit 1 or 2 days a week, or like whenever you are free. I have the chance that I started learning Korean as I mentioned, with a friend that I started in the channel, so we used to do that quite a lot. I have I have some Korean friends, so I used to I talk with some of my Korean friends and teachers in Korean. So I try to practice that a lot. And for the final, my advice will be that you can start doing it yourself, but at some point I will advise to look for a course, like a proper course, online or in person. So me particularly, I did start looking for things online and material online that I could get familiar with, like the books for Talk to Me in Korea, and I like listened to some podcasts, and obviously I have listened to K-pop, watching to K-dramas. I got familiar with the language and like how the things were reading and things like that. So because of the type of learner I am, I do need help. I feel like doing by myself, I wouldn't being able to advance as quick as I would wanted to, or like maybe I would miss on a lot of things, or like I wouldn't have like a reference point. And I particularly I need a teacher. I need a person that I can ask questions. So I did look for the course when we started to using like this book, which is the KMENTARY ZONE Institute, which is the Sejohandak. In both they are in different countries. Obviously they're attached to the Korean Cultural Center, but I started with the one in Budapest. If you feel that will be helpful for you. Sometimes it's better. Obviously, there are a lot of resources online. There are a lot of like content creators right now who offer those services, and like they are like amazing. That people who like are actually learning the language, they are more accessible. They are more flexible with time. So that's something that you can also look into. I can recommend this one as the one that I did, and I can attest that it is very good. The teachers are incredible, and yeah, I can recommend this one. So those are my very basic advice of like what I did and what are my advices to make the learning easy for you. But the last advice of the course and things like that, this what it ties up more to my journey. So I started to talk about my journey learning Korean at the beginning. So I joined in the online course because obviously during COVID, all the teachers are Korean. Most of the teachers, if not all, are Korean that have like a partnership with the ministry and the cultural center. I believe my first teacher, she came to Budapest for 2 years from Korea, and she was living in Budapest, but obviously she's a Korean citizen. And so there were a lot of things that I learned about her on like nuances of like context and things like that, or like the best way of sounding more natural and more fluent. So I think that's a good advice. That's a good like advantages you have over like only doing it online and like not through a course, but like just looking for yourself. The courses in this particular one is that you need to work yourself to the schedule of that course. So it's a little bit more of a time constraint. It wouldn't allow you to have much time that if you were doing by yourself, because you will be at your own pace. So it can be a little bit daring to some people if that's not like your pace. But it does provide with a lot of information. It does provide with a lot of help. The teachers are extremely well qualified, and I honestly couldn't recommend it enough. I was supposed to have my teacher for the first level doing an interview for this video, but she's extremely busy right now. She's changing schools at the moment. She's back in Korea. And that's the good thing as well. I got to know a lot of people through the courses, and I made a good friends of my Korean teachers, to the point where like I have met my Korean teachers outside of the school, and I have met them when I have gone to Korea. So I think that's one of the things that I really love about this course, that it got me to know a lot of people, and then it got me to like having people that I can meet when I'm going to Korea. It's like, I want to meet my teacher. I've met a couple of times, and that's very lovely. So as I say, I show that I started with level 1 and I am on level 5. And this is a stretch, and I'm gonna tell you why. Based on the books and my experience, as of now, level 5, there are 8 levels for this specific type of course. There are 8 levels. My experience from 1 to 5 is that the level does increase quite a bit when it jumps from 3, 4, and 5. If you have already familiar with the language, in the sense of like you have consumed Korean content and you have tried to get familiar with the language before jumping into a course, like trying to learn the alphabet, which a lot of people do, going into the first course with the book, as I mentioned, like getting a little bit more familiar, it can be more easy. You will be able to recognize a lot of things, and that will help you encourage to say, oh, I'm not as lost as I thought. This is a little bit more accessible to me, and that's very helpful for you. But if, as I mentioned before, if you are not familiar with it, that's the first thing that you see. Sometimes the first level can be a little bit more daunting, because obviously you are learning right out of the bat a new alphabet, new pronunciation and things like that, so it can be a little bit more difficult to catch up the pace. For me, that my native language is Spanish, the romantic languages, like I'm familiar with that, like learning Korean is like a whole new thing, and I was like super into it. Like, I don't know, it made me excited to like, oh, this is how it writes, like this is how I pronounce it, this is how the words, and like it's very nice when you see something and say, oh, I can read that, I know what that means. When you jump, and that's a surprise thing for a lot of people, when you jump into the second level, it gets a little bit easier than the first one, because on the second level you are learning a lot of grammar that allows you to connect a lot of things that you have learned in the first one. And I think that's a normal thing for like a lot of languages, but like you will learn how to make full sentences. So it becomes a lot of like it's very fun because you say, oh, I learned about this and now I can use this to connect this sentence with this one, and then that's like very, very, very fun. At least for me, like I found it like second level was like really like more interesting and like more fun than the first one. So when in the first one I was learning, oh, hakyokayo, or like kombuheo, like now you are learning eso, or like, you know, different connectors like kureso, hako, kuriku, and things like that on the first, at the end of the first and like second sign. So you, rather than saying hakyo kayo kombuheo, you can say, oh, hakyo eso kombuheo, or like onoren iri mani isoso pikomheo, things like that. I think that's grammatically correct. If it's not, I'm sorry. And then the third level happens, and that's when we start to like getting a little bit complicated. The third level for me is one of the hardest ones because the grammar becomes a little bit more steady going up. It's a little bit more complicated, and you need to have you need to really pay attention. And this is the point when I have mentioned before that I start to lacking, and this that connects to the second advice that I gave: learn a lot of words. My mistake with that is that I was focused a lot on the grammar and trying to connect with the things, but I didn't pay much attention to the new words and like trying to memorize these new places, the new words, the new verbs that I was learning. And then when you come to obviously level 3, you are assumed that you already have memorized those things. Some of the times that should be the case, but if you are not paying attention, if you're not practicing enough, that might not be the case. And then you are faced with the fact that now it's not only that you're learning a new grammar that allows you to connect this verb or this word or this sentence with another one, is that you are learning a grammar that is now gonna go on top of this grammar, that is gonna go on top of this word that you have learned 2 years before. And if you are not memorize those kind of things and you do not have the knowledge of like words and verbs in the background, it can be daunting because you know the grammar, you know how to use it, but you don't have the words how to use it. Level 4 was also really hard, and it's the same. The steady pace where like the level of grammar is increasing is getting a little bit more, it's getting serious right now. The grammar gets a little bit more complicated, and like you need to really pay attention. You now have to fully dedicate the time to sit down, try to fully understand, make the questions, and that's why when having a course will help you a lot. Then you come to level 5. This is what I am right now. I have tried twice. I haven't passed one. So at the moment, I cannot give you an advice on level 5 because I am still fighting myself with it. Learning Korean is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun if you really find the passion of it. You are learning a lot of new things. It will give you so much like aha moments when you are watching or listening to content and you say, I recognize this word, or I recognize that, oh, that's how you use it, or I remember seeing this on the lesson and now, oh, that makes sense to me. It's very fun, at least for me, and like I wouldn't recommend it enough. Like also the language is very beautiful. It has like something to it, or like the way the tone rolls in the specific word is so nice. I love it when I go to Korea and I am able to like talk to like the people, like, you know, the vendors and like things in like the different streets that you can buy like like souvenirs and things like that. I also felt really good when like you talk the language and like people, you know, the locals praise you for it, in the sense of like they see that you are doing the effort even if you are not fluent enough. Like I am not fluent and I try to like speak a little bit. It's good when they smile and say, oh, good, like, oh yes, I understand, and things like that. That's very nice. So if you have the chance, please give it a try, learn the language. You can use one of the tips. Please leave in the comments any of the tips that you find useful. I mean, I wouldn't say tips, I would say advice on how you make things easier for you. These are the advice that work for me on like how I make easy the learning for me. and how it can be helpful for you. If you find any other better ways to do the things that I do, like you want me to also provide your advice to me and say, oh, you should try this and that because of like you said this, so I think this will be useful for you, let me know in the comments down below. You can also help other people to get into and learning the language. But yeah, hope you like this video. Give a like and subscribe, and see you again next time. Bye bye.